One of the things I thought I would try and do totally shocked me, but somebody actually asked on the channel to explain what it is or explain how it was I was coming up with how much material to take off of the guiding wayside on the knee. So I just wanted to just kind of go through for myself as well, because I'm trying to understand what's actually happening and just kind of a verification for myself. So what I've kind of walked through is, if you imagine that if this was an imaginary plane of travel that we were looking for, and if this was the knee moving up and down on the column, and at some point you have to make an assumption, I believe, that some things are straight. Based on the way I scraped in the column, I'm 90% confident that the column is straight. I'm still working out in my mind how to sort that out and make sure of that, but based on what I've seen on the knee, and again, so just imagine the knee is, let's just say this is the top of the knee. I'm not going to try and draw it. Well, I guess I could try and draw it isometrically here, but I'm certainly not good at that. But so if you imagine that's kind of the knee there, and these would be the saddle ways. This moving up and down should be parallel to the axis of the column if the guiding wayside of the knee and the column are in the same plane. So what I believe is happening is I'm making the assumption that the column is straight, and if I just took and just drew in what I believe to be the top of the knee, and the way I've been measuring is with the 24-inch square, when I put the square on top of the knee, I believe it's actually tipped that way at the top. So what's happening is, when you zero the indicator on the bottom of the square, and as you travel, as you take the knee down, this indicator would be getting, I'll call it lighter, because this tip at the top on the square has the square moving away from the indicator. And again, the indicator is fixed. I normally have the indicator fixed to the column somehow. So if that is 0 and we're moving the knee down, the indicator is getting lighter as it's moving up along the square. So what I think that means is, if I were to take this plane of travel that we want and assume that is straight on the column, and the knee is actually out, and if I were to take this, if I traveled 10 inches from this 0 point, and the indicator, if this was the square, this in here would be, if that was 3 thou, up here at 10 inches, I think what's happening and what I've been working towards, and as I'm adjusting, it is coming in. What that is to me is, if I take 10 inches, the first 10 inches of the guiding way on the knee is also out 3 thou in that direction. So that's how I've been approaching this, and what I think has happened is actually the saddle ways on the top of the knee, when I scrape those, I believe I have scraped this left hand one lower than the right hand. Now the two of them are in a plane, in the same plane to one another, but the plane is tipped down on that side. So that's part of the reason why I chose, after consulting somebody who really knows what's happening here, that's why I chose to leave this plane. This is a tougher plane to adjust, and there's a lot of work involved in adjusting that. And basically the bottom line is the knee needs to be square to itself, which for me was the easier way, was to take care of the angle in the guiding way. So that's where we are, and I think at this point I've got the guiding way fairly straight, not bearing quality that I want yet, but it's fairly straight. And when I get it back up onto the surface plate, we'll check how close that's getting, and as that approaches 0 on the cylindrical square, I'm also seeing that change. The last time I had the knee on the column, this gap here is closing, so the knee is turning the way I saw it being out. So we're getting there. Hope that explains. I hope I'm on the right track, because I'm not sure if like I said, I started scraping. I scraped down to about 3 thou, and I'm seeing that change on the machine. So I've done quite a bit of scraping in the last few days here on the guiding way, and I'm getting close now, both for geometry and where the location is and the surface finish. So I just got something going on here right now that I'm just double checking, and pretty soon we'll have to put this back on the column and check the we'll have to check how the guiding way matches up with the column. So up here at the top I've got 0, and as I run down, well, it's holding better than it did just a few minutes ago. It's within a half a thou now. Gauge is sensitive on how much pressure I put on the way, on both the way and the guiding way, so it's actually better. I've got the knee flipped around on the table, so that's looking pretty good for geometry at this point. So now I'll just need to run a few more cycles just to get good bearing quality and flatness across everything there. I'd call it about 70% at this point. So I've got the knee. This is the table I've been working on. It's a good working height, and I've been hanging the scraper from the I've lost my train of thought on what the heck you call them things. Balancer. on a on the cable balancer, so it works out nice that it's at this height, and so the geometry's looking good, and this is where it's at right now as far as surface quality goes. It's looking pretty good. I'm gonna try and bring this spot here down here is a little light right now for me, so I'm gonna try and break up some of these bigger spots and take it all down parallel to the way it is now, because the geometry is really good. So probably 2 or 3 more cycles just to break that up. I might actually do that by hand scraping, and then we got to get it back on the column to make sure that the angle of this matches the column. One of the things that you need to be careful with is at the bottom of the dovetail, you have to have clearance in there. So this is I think I've shown this before. It's just an insert that I put on the end of a piece of cold roll here, and it fits down inside the dovetails nice. And I just kind of scraping it just to make sure I've got clearance in there for both the gauge and then the mating part, the column, when it goes on. It's amazing how much material comes off with that.